Hi everyone, my name is Tony Carcamo, President and owner of Civil CAD Learning Solutions, and welcome to today's Getting to Know Autodesk Expert Leads web series. And so Chris, if you want to take it away and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Chris Fugitt. I'm an expert lead in the first batch. I've been using Civil 3D since Civil 3D 2007. I'm primarily known for programming, creating tools, and then I also teach quite a bit.
Okay.
And,
what version were you using when you first started?
for Civil 3D, it was 2007.
2007.
But I used a product called Paxsoft before that
Okay.
at the County of San Luis Obispo.
Okay. How about any other Autodesk product? What was your very first taste of any of the Autodesk products?
I worked in construction for a while, and it was
Okay.
Land Desktop, like a really old version of it. And I didn't really use it all that much. It was like trying to learn it, but never really got around to it because I was pushing paper around and approving invoices and all that type of stuff.
Okay. Yeah. I had my last discussion with Todd, and my first taste of Autodesk product was AutoCAD 12 and the Air Force. So, and I actually used the Land Desktop for a few years. So it was a pretty good software. We used it fully for design. But eventually upgraded to 14 and 2000, and then eventually Civil 3D when it first came out. So talking about a lot of bugs when it first came out, man, I don't know if you remember, 2007 was that much better. 2009 was even more bugs to me, if you remember 2009's. What other Autodesk products do you use currently right now?
Right now, it's just Civil 3D.
Okay.
I have no real interest in supporting InfoWorks, just because I think Autodesk's approach to it has been horrible.
Yeah.
In a development standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. My input on InfoWorks is I've always been pushing on the private sector. So I think most of their clients are focusing on road projects. So they focus a lot on the road tools. But for me, I have a lot of developers on the private sector, so we do a lot of commercial projects. So it's lacking a lot of site grading tools for the private commercial properties, parking lots, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of missing elements. The only thing I can say about InfoWorks is it's pretty user friendly compared to Civil 3D. So if you try to compare those two software, talking about you could probably get a good understanding within 3 months of InfoWorks versus Civil 3D. It's going to take you. It's a long learning curve. So.
Right, but InfoWorks throws out a lot of the complexity for the sacrifice of detail.
Yeah.
Right, so anything that's superficial and on the face is going to be easier to learn.
Yeah. So, you use Civil 3D. Is there any other software you currently use that's not an Autodesk product? Anything in the past?
Right now, I have.
Go ahead.
Right now, I have Bentley installed on my work machine to use Bentley software, which is MicroStation, and we use that as our drafting platform.
Yeah.
And Civil 3D is the roadway design software.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts on the Bentley products on the MicroStation side of it? Do you see is it more user friendly than the Civil 3D and AutoCAD, or is it about the same, or is it plus and minuses really? Depends on how you.
It's about the same. It all depends on the user's experience and where they came from.
Yeah.
They learned on MicroStation first.
Yeah.
They tend to be anti-Autodesk.
Yeah.
But if did Autodesk, then they really don't want to use Bentley. But the great thing about MicroStation is that the render time is awesome.
Yeah.
I go to open up a Civil 3D sheet in MicroStation, and I can go through all the layout tabs in 5 seconds. If I take that same time in Civil 3D or even just AutoCAD after exploding it, I'm sitting there for, in the case of Civil 3D, maybe 45, 50 minutes. If I just have the AutoCAD, maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're comparing that to 5 seconds, why would I want to use Autodesk?
Yeah.
There's a better option there for the users.
Yeah. The only Bentley product I've actually used is the SOTUPS tool. So I've used it here and there for commercial layout tools, for the parking lots, and the subdivision design layout tools. So I see some great benefits on the side upside of it. So I'm hoping Autodesk will eventually get there some way, somehow. So, and take, I don't want to say copy, but come up with their own version of kind of layout tools and stuff like that. So, okay, so you've been in the industry for how long?
Since I graduated in '96.
96.
And I was doing construction for 4 years.
Yeah, so we graduated the same year.
Yeah.
I graduated in '96 also.
Yeah.
So, how did you get, what was your learning path to become an expert lead? How did you train and get all this knowledge in the software? Did you take classes, self-taught, so?
I took the standard 3-day class, but that really just shows you what's possible.
Yeah.
It never really shows you how to use the software.
Yeah.
Really my greatest learning was sitting on the forums for like 3 years and answering every single Civil 3D post, or not answering it, but reading it.
Yeah.
And then if I saw one that was interesting, I would go and try to solve the problem and then provide a solution to it. And then I created a blog to kind of put the stuff on, because a lot of this knowledge I was getting wasn't applicable to my current workflow. Yeah. But if I ever wanted to go back and use it, I set up a blog where I could write about it called Civil 3D Reminders.
Yep, and I've been on that blog for years.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, great blog. Yeah, I've used it for years and stuff. So, yeah, for me, it's always been self-training. So I took one Civil 3D class when it first came out. And like you just said, it just teaches you the basics, not really a whole lot. And the rest was self-taught. So it was me going on forums, reading blogs, and reading books, and attending a bunch of webinars from the resellers. So I attended a lot of webinars, resellers, and then every day during lunch, I sit there and just play around with the software, see if I can break it, figure out what this button does. And I did that for years and years, and it was all self-taught. And then coordinating with other experts and bouncing ideas and picking up tricks, tips and tricks from other experts and stuff like that. So all mine was all self-taught. I would spend hours at home just playing with the software. But that's how I got where I am now. So just self-training and stuff. So, so where do you think the software is going to be in 10 years? You think, I know you, both being on the kind of the development side of it, we hear where Autodesk is thinking they're going, but where do you think it's going to land? Because things can change every 2 years. So in 10 years, what do you think the platform is going to look like for Civil 3D or even InfoWorks? So
I think it'll be Forge. Yeah. If you look at Autodesk spending on ADN, it's all Forge. Seems like all their technical specialists for ADN are working on Forge, writing sample projects. So it really points to all the Autodesk products getting abandoned and going to Forge. And then Forge will become your viewer. And then hopefully Autodesk can deliver and take the same tools or this. Make the same tools that are available now and make them on the Forge platform, where all the data will be in one repository. So InfoWorks and Autodesk and AutoCAD will be gone.
Yeah. Well, is that going to be a good thing or bad thing? What's your thoughts about Forge? Do you think that's going to be a good thing or bad thing?
Well, based on what Autodesk has done, like when they created InfoWorks, they pretty much took Civil 3D and threw it in the trash can and said, "This is crap. We aren't going to use it." And so if they do the same thing with InfoWorks and Civil 3D again to bring it to Forge, then I really don't think there's any reason to use Autodesk products at that point, because then we get to spend another 5 to 10 years reteaching Autodesk how to do the software that they're delivering to us. And I have no desire to do that, right? Because we did it with Civil 3D, and now we're doing it with InfoWorks. And do I want to do it again for Forge? I don't.
Yeah, I personally don't either. I don't want to go completely learn a new software. I totally agree with that. So, me personally, I think, like I told Todd Rogers the last video, I think it might turn into one software where you have multiple workspaces, just like Map 3D and Civil 3D and AutoCAD, where you can just change. And I would love to see that. I would love to see InfoWorks embedded into Civil 3D, but I know it's not possible probably, but
it is possible.
It's possible.
Want to spend the money.
Yeah. Can you imagine having one platform where I could just change the workspaces back and forth between Recap, Civil 3D, InfoWorks, Revit will probably still be separate, but to have just one platform for all that. Even SSA is not separated, it's embedded in there too. So I'd love to see that. I think that might happen, so don't know. Don't quote me on that. So that's how I envision, but I'd see the big push on Forge. The last few AUs, it's everywhere. You see these banners with Forge everywhere. So, yeah. Okay, so tell me, I guess, a funny story of things you've done, silly things you've done, learning a new Autodesk product that you later found out, like, man, I was really dumb doing that, or like, what was I thinking? So I've done some pretty funny stuff. Like, when I first learned the software, I told Todd the other day, like, when Civil 3D first came out, I never used the line weight button, and I actually turned it on, and I freaked out. And I was redrawing drawings and stuff just because of the line weight button. So I've learned my lesson when I first used the Civil 3D and found it later that, oh my goodness, it was a button I've accidentally clicked. But even versions, working in the wrong version, when you're working something for a client, or the projects are in different versions, and you jump in the wrong version in Civil 3D and don't find out till the next day. So do you have any funny stories, learning a new product or done stuff, because we're not perfect. I always tell my clients, look, I'm an expert elite, but that doesn't mean I learn. I know everything and I don't make mistakes. I make mistakes myself, so.
I think it's primarily not looking for third-party tools or tools to help your design.
Yeah.
So I was working on large military projects and large subdivision projects.
Yeah.
And we'd have a change, and we'd insert a cheat sheet, and we're trying to get the project out. Yeah. And we'd have to renumber all of the sheets. And it was kind of like totally killing us. But we could have gone out and looked for third-party solutions, found those and used them, and take a 20 or a 5 to 10 minute task and turn it into a 5-second task.
Yeah.
By just hitting the button and having everything renumbered.
Yeah. So if you had more free time, what software would you love to learn? Any platform, what do you think is fun, interesting, you would really like to learn the software? It doesn't even have to be a software design software. It could be a coding software or something, a coder. So
primarily something to get out of the civil space.
Okay.
Like learn a new profession. Just because using Civil 3D and InfoWorks, you're kind of using it, and it's kind of like, this could be so much better if it was more BIM-like, if we had more interoperability. Yeah. And then I just get so frustrated because the products are so horrible compared to the marketing. Yeah. I'd go to these media days with Autodesk, and they do their dog and pony show for Civil 3D, and I'd be like, well, we can now add a little vertex on a label and move it over. I mean, that's great, I guess. And then you'd see like the architects get like a curved wall does an awesome shape. Yeah. And you're like, well, I want that. Why can't I have that? Yeah. And so it's really frustrating because I'm like all in on BIM. Yeah. But Autodesk seems to be like, oh, we're just going to slap BIM on everything and not deliver any of the features. So it's really frustrating. So if I had the time and opportunity, I'd go out and get another profession so I wouldn't have to use the horrible software that doesn't provide us a way forward. Just kind of we're stagnating in George Washington's methodology. Yeah. It's just a lot quicker because we can share files without having paper. But if you look at Autodesk's definition of BIM, the employees that I've talked to, it's just a database with a database. And if we look at George Washington's plans for his garden, you'll see he has a database, 1, 2, 3, with the line items there. And he's got the numbers on the plans, and that's a database. I have a pointer to the database, and I read it from the database. Yeah. And so George Washington was doing BIM, and if BIM is just going to be a useless definition, why am I in this business? Yeah. You think if we were, like yourself and I were a bigger corporation with 10,000 employees, would it make a difference? Would they hear us, our demands, if we were much bigger? Not in my experience. Yeah. It's really hard to get, because once you're a customer, I mean, now they've got the recurring payment, right? They're getting $500,000 to $1 million every year, right? They want their check, but they really don't want to do to follow through on delivering an awesome product, right? Yeah. For roadway transportation projects, if I got a 5-mile project, how long does it take me to do quantities, get the output? Right, I'm spending 4 or 5 hours doing menial work. Yeah, that's dumb. Yeah. If I want to get reports from my materials from my cross section, I have to run the report for every single material one at a time. Right, we're in the 20th century. I have 8 cores on my computer. Why am I going up to the drop down, running the command, selecting the drop down, hitting OK, and repeating that 20 times for the 20 different materials I have? That's idiotic. Yeah. And yet Autodesk says, well, that's the way it is. That's congratulations, you bought our software. You get to do all that time wasting stuff. Yeah.
And I wish at some point they would take advantage of the multi-core processing. You know, it's still, am I right? I think it's still single core processing on some of these softwares. So, and like that, I feel like we're way behind the times on that right there. So,
why put the money into it when your future is Forge? The future is on AutoCAD. AutoCAD is a dead product, right? They're doing enough work to make you think that they're continuing it. But when you look at it, it's kind of like you said, it's technologically dead. And it really needs a refresh. But Autodesk has said that's not where they're headed. They want to go to the cloud and this one Forge, right? So if we're counting on Autodesk to do the right thing and bring AutoCAD to the current technology, I think we're going to be waiting a long time because you're going to have to switch to Forge. And I don't see them doing a good job taking that 30 years of legacy feature set and bringing it to Forge. And if they don't do that, why should I go to Forge? I'm going to go find a new partner that may be even better, like Chris Fugitt, right? Who has multi-processing support. You do everything within the drawing, right? You can do Revit-like stuff in BriskCAD, right? Why BriskCAD is doing Autodesk's vision today.
I've heard the company that never really used it. I think there's a few Autodesk people that actually are now working at BriskCAD, so they used to work for Autodesk. So, but so what do you think is the hard? I know you use majority Civil 3D, but what do you find is the hardest software to learn right now on any platform, you know, Autodesk platform? So
it's always the one you don't really have to use. Like right now, I'm trying to compile a C++ project in Visual Studio. Like right now, it's really hard because I have no idea what I'm doing because I've never been forced to do it. So it's always one that you really don't have an interest in learning, and you kind of give up.
I would say the hardest one I faced was 3ds Max. I've tried and just couldn't pick up on it. You know, I think that to me is the hardest one to learn. Civil 3D is probably number 2, and then probably Revit will be number 3. So the rest to me are very simple, you know, to learn. InfoWorks, AutoCAD, Recap, vehicle tracking, you know, raster design, all those other little add-ons and stuff like that. SSA is a little difficult. You really got to know some of your stuff, you know, with SSA. So, what do you think is your favorite design software ever using? You know, doesn't matter, you know, what platform, what it is just you find it very easy to learn, very easy to use. It does what it says it's going to do. So, you know, what software out there that you actually love using?
Right now, it's Visual Studio. Being able to program the apps. Yeah, Microsoft continues to invest money into it. They buy companies to add to it, and when they buy companies, they tend to integrate the technologies rather than kind of the way Autodesk does it. It's kind of like buy the technology and then kind of let it rot and sit over in the corner. And not always integrate it fully. Right? They bought, what was it? Not AutoTurn, but the company in Europe, right? It didn't get really incorporated into Civil 3D. It got incorporated a little bit in InfoWorks. But really, they could have done a lot more with it, integrated it more, made it more of an awesome product instead of something that the salesmen don't seem to want to sell. and it's just kind of like sitting on the shelf. And it's really sad because that was like an alternative to AutoTurn, and Autodesk kind of dropped the ball, and you really don't hear anything about it anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of true. That's kind of true. I don't know if I have a favorite. You know, I dabble a lot with different platforms in the AC collection. I mean, the most user friendly is InfoWorks to me. Yes, there's a lot of issues with it, but I find it very user friendly. I like it because it's not as crashing as much as Civil 3D. I will say that. I don't say it never crashes. I will say it doesn't crash or lock up as much as Civil 3D. Even though Civil 3D is the one I use 90% of the time, I like that it's stable. It's pretty. Would you agree that's more stable than Civil 3D? So,
I don't use InfoWorks very often, but the first time I used it was for a reseller taking the test for proving that you knew the software. Yeah. And I was using Autodesk data set and using the product. Right. I couldn't even get through the data set because it would crash every single time.
Oh man.
And I was following Autodesk instructions, Autodesk data set.
Okay, so let's change up a little bit. So we're seeing a big push with AR and VR technology, on certain industries. So what are your thoughts about the AR and VR going on right now? Do you see a positive, negative side of it? Is it saturated market? You don't really see a use for it. What are your thoughts about that? I don't know if you use it that much at your work, so what's your thoughts about AR?
I think it has some great uses. In the civil space. It's a little bit harder to justify. I know at like Autodesk University, they had the car simulator where you could get in the car and drive over a bridge that a consultant did for a large DOT. Yeah. I mean, that's good for learning, like trying to show the public what's going to happen. Yeah. But it's kind of telling that we really haven't seen it used a whole lot, or at least I haven't come across where other projects are using it, where they sit down and do it. Right. It was like a one-off thing, and it doesn't seem to have caught on. Yeah.
Here, I see it more on the architectural side. I see quite a few architectural companies using the VR. And now I'm starting to see a slight push on the engineering side using the VR. The AR, I would say it's very few companies to me are using the AR technology. To me, I see it as more of an entertainment product. But the VR, I've used it for actually a couple projects. Some of the clients like it, but I would say the smaller clients are not interested because they don't want to spend money, using that technology and spending time for something. Yeah. The only time I've used it is for not marketing, for city council and city zoning meetings. You're trying to show the finished product to the city officials, and sell that vision to the city officials. Before you even buy the property, you can actually do that. You can do a finished product and show, hey, this is what we're looking to develop. So, and you would probably rather do that in a 3D world space besides trying to make revisions in the engineering contract. So you don't want that client to say, hey, let's just move the building around. Well, that's going to be an ad service. So, we can make simple edits in the VR, in VR with like maybe InfoWorks or Twin Motion or what's the other one? Lumion. So 3D modeling software like that with SketchUp. So I think that's the positive side of it is you can make some quick edits within using those products besides doing it in Civil 3D. So let's see what else. What would be one important tip you would say to Civil 3D users? That's kind of a lifesaver. Maybe a new beginner or even a power user says, hey, what's the most important tip you would have about using Civil 3D?
The help file exists, and you're allowed to open it up. Right? Because a lot of times I get like calls like, how do I label a pressure pipe in a section view? Yeah. That's in the help file. Yeah. You open it up and look for it. Yeah. And the other tip is just look for the tools. In Civil 3D, it's pretty easy to find that tool. You go to the Annotate tab, add labels. Yeah. You told me you wanted to add label and do it. And
Yep.
it always amazes me when people can't try to look for it first before they call me and have me charge them an obscene money
Yeah.
to go and look at it for
I,
myself.
I actually, I was a CAD manager for 10 plus years, and I find it interesting that a lot of the users don't use the application button up top to figure out where the actual button is. Where you can type in the command and it tells you where it is on the ribbon, how to use it. No one really uses that. None of my users, I tell them, hey, do you ever use this application button to actually search a command? Very, very few. When you say, look, you can use the help menu and type in the command up here if you know the command, and then it will take you to the help menu, like you just mentioned.
Yep.
But yeah, I think there's a trend where they don't want to use the help menu, and then they go straight to Google and type it in there and Google it, or try to find the answer in YouTube. So
Yeah.
and
Our problem is that Autodesk keeps changing their URLs.
Yeah.
So you go to Google, you find a link that would provide that information, and you end up going to the knowledge.autodesk.com webpage because that's the default page when it can't find something.
Yeah.
And now you don't have that data.
Yeah.
It's kind of been frustrating.
And it could be blank and says, page not found no more, no longer exists.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I had read a few of those. So, thoughts, about AU this year online. Do you think it's going to be a big hit, or you think it's going to be a big miss on that?
The rumor that I heard, it's 500 classes.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're covering all of the products for Autodesk, that's going to be a big miss.
Mm-hmm.
Because you aren't going to get that content. You're going to get the top speakers probably picked, and some of the lesser known people aren't going to get a chance to at least try to present.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to hinder based on the number of classes.
Okay. So are you part of any other Autodesk groups or committees? I know you're an AutoCAD Expert Elite member. How about any other groups and committees you get yourself involved with?
Right now, it's primarily just the Autodesk Expert Elite, like hanging out with you guys every once in a while.
Yeah.
Once a year at AU, historically. I participate in a transportation advisory board. Occasionally, I get the invite, but a lot of times it's other people in my organization who attend that.
Yeah.
I started going to iHeap last year. I'm not sure if there's going to be one this year or if I'll be able to go.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting to see going to that because it's heavily Bentley focused. Because Bentley's very popular in transportation DOTs across the country.
Yeah. I'm a Augie content manager, so I try to do my best to write articles about InfoWorks and sometimes Civil 3D, and then of course the AutoCAD Expert Elites, and then on several committees, AutoCAD user panels. I think there's 3 other ones that are on there. So, and it's really just questionnaires and surveys they're asking. So, and then now the new group, which is the Autodesk network group, is creating a new user group that's hosted by Autodesk and bringing all those user groups together in one single platform, kind of like Augie. So I'm now one of the leaders on that group. I think it's a good thing. I think some positives about that. So I'm kind of excited to see how it's going to go with this new user group platform. And then I'm also the president of DFW BIM Infrastructure U group here in Dallas. So we try to host training events here. So now, one last question. Do you have user groups anymore in California? I know it's kind of faded away here in Texas. There used to be a lot, like in the 2006 through 2012. A lot of the resellers had user groups. There was a lot of private user groups. What is it like there in California? Do you see user groups still established, or are they all kind of faded away?
A lot of them has been faded away.
Yeah.
I think you get that one person who thinks it's a great idea.
Yeah.
They schedule 3 or 4 months worth of meetings.
Yeah.
And then they learn that maybe this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to get a speaker to show up.
Yep.
To arrange a place to work, bring refreshments, all that type of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
then
yeah.
the resellers are going away, right? So
Yep.
it used to
Yeah.
have lots of smaller resellers, and now they're all being pushed out, getting gobbled up by the larger resellers.
Yeah.
And so there's less opportunity. Why, as a smaller reseller, you kind of have your small area, and it makes it kind of financially worth it because you
Yeah.
want to go meet Bob over at the county
Yeah.
and have him come over and you guys can interact.
Yeah.
And now that they're having the large resellers, it's really expensive for them because you have to send someone maybe 2-3 hours away
Yeah.
to go host this users group.
Yeah.
And if you aren't getting sales from it, it quickly goes away.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think that's all the questions I actually have. Do you have any other inputs you want to talk about? Got a few, I think we got a few minutes left here. Anything you want to add? We're going to actually have another series. We'll get more in depth. But, this series will be going around interviewing all the expert elites, as many as we can throughout the world, actually. So we're kind of excited about that. So, any comments?
I just wish users would ask for more BIM in the product. When Autodesk asks them what they want, just say, this isn't BIM. Can we please have BIM? So if you do a usability study for Project Ground Force, and they're trying to tell you that polylines are BIM, push back and say, you know what, this isn't BIM, this is crap. If you're going to sell this as BIM, it's crap. Because drawing polylines, that's AutoCAD. That pond, that lane, that roadway, that pavement area, that should be a BIM object. We shouldn't be drawing polylines and managing polylines to do that. So if you're doing a usability study, just say, this isn't BIM. Please provide us BIM. This is crap. Do you guys' job. Get your marketing and sales and engineering on BIM instead of just the marketing team slapping BIM on everything and saying, well, this is BIM. Well, I'm tired of Autodesk doing that. That's not BIM. That's crap. And start doing BIM.
I think that's maybe a discussion we could have, sit down and bring some more Autodesk guys. I know we've already done a lot of one-on-one with them, but if we brought in a bunch of more experts, elites, and try to, make a louder roar with the expert elites, maybe they can, finally listen to us. You bring up the civil BIM. I remember at the beginning when I was a little resistant, but I'm starting to see your vision. I'm coming around now to seeing your vision and stuff. So, and I see the benefits, you've been talking about. At the beginning, I was like, no, but now I'm starting to see it. I'm coming around to see that civil BIM and see the benefits of that. So, who knows? We'll see where we can take it. I think I want to bring in some Autodesk guys and see if we can convince some of these development teams, so never know, so maybe they'll come around, hopefully, so, but, and I think it'd be great to get other people's opinions across other parts of the country. What are your thoughts about BIM? I know across the pond, they're on level 2, 3 BIM. What are they doing? What software are they using for BIM? Are you even using Autodesk products for BIM over there? So that's going to be kind of exciting to hear what they're doing, in Europe and Asia and different countries and stuff. So,
Yep.
Well, thanks. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I really enjoyed it. And then this is just the first series, and we'll come back and have another meeting, have another little web series, and we'll get more in depth about the products and stuff. So this is just more of an intro. So I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right, man. Thanks. Later. Bye.
Bye.